is my year. I'm gonna be great. You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. This is my year. I'm gonna be great. You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. Are you ready? I'm ready. 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 Visualize it. Visualize it. Manifest it. Manifest it. I mind my business and I no complain. Every day I dey walk and pray. As I dey chop, I dey wash my plate. I dey wash my plate. Don't be surprised when you see me elevating. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrate. This is my year. I'm gonna be great. You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. This is my year. I'm gonna be great. You cannot stop me. No one can stop me. Are you ready? I'm ready. 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 This year they go call you for phone and tell you many, many congratulations. If you believe it, repeat it. Amen, 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 amen. Don't be surprised when you see me elevating. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrate. This is my year.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Workshop Wednesdays. If you're excited, let me see some fire emojis in the chat. My name is Chanel. I am the founder and CEO of Mentoring Collective, and I am so excited that you all are tuning into another incredible session with an incredible professional. As you all know, we are, 2-3 weeks deep into our Google Cloud program. And of course, supporting our scholars, we have these Workshop Wednesdays to continue continuous learning, but also to kind of highlight practical implementations in the workplace. So if you are tuning in from anywhere around the world, which I know you are, let us know where you're tuning in from as well. And yes, everyone, I'm feeling better. I'm doing really, really good. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you for the love and the support. I had a really incredible time with you all last week. I think it was almost like the Lord's way of healing me and giving me some encouragement as I was a servant and sharing, information with you all too. So it has been a pleasure, a blessing and a pleasure. So, before we jump in, as you all know, we have a couple of housekeeping things. Please make sure you like this video. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and of course, continue to stay active in the chat. I'm really excited about today, not only because we have, like I said, an incredible, wonderful woman in tech, but also because it touches something that is very important in the world today. Everything is about data, right? When it comes to AI pipelines, data pipelines, and honestly, anything in the world, you need the right kind of data. And so, of course, the secret sauce today, we're going to lean into talking about FIFA, a little sprinkle of data here and there, and just making things fun. So I'm super excited to have you all, like I said, joining. If you are a scholar, put #scholar in the chat. If you are an alumni, put #alum in the chat. And if you're just a community member, just excited to be here, a part of the journey, we would love to see you also in the chat. Put #member. Okay, love that. So of course, this is a workshop. It is not a lecture. So if something clicks, definitely make sure to tell us in the chat. If something does not click, if you need further explanation, please put your comments, your questions also in the chat, because as your questions come in, I'll be collecting them throughout the workshop. So we'll bring some of those questions back, of course, towards the end when we have our Q&A. And again, I just want everyone to know that this is a safe learning environment. So there are no weird or stupid questions. I don't even like saying that word, but I just want you all to know that any questions you have, please feel free and comfortable to drop them in the chat. You do not have to have a technical background, obviously, to participate in this conversation. So let's get in. Let's jump in. So today's workshop is called From Data to Decisions, Understanding the Data Pipeline Lifecycle with FIFA Data. And I love this session because we are taking something that can sound very technical, data pipelines, and making it tangible through something millions of people already understand, which is sports. So if you were tuned into the FIFA World Cup, let me know what country you were rooting for in the chat. Okay. I am definitely a bandwagon FIFA World Cupper. You know, I was definitely rooting for the USA. Honestly, Portugal, listen, the people was out here. Okay. We saw, I'm in New York. So we saw a lot of people with like their flags, Switzerland, and Germany, and all that kind of stuff. So it was super exciting to kind of see the energy come to life. But my personal preference is basketball and football. So it's football season. Shout out to Lamar Jackson, the Ravens. So if you're a Ravens fan, let me know in the chat too. I'm over here talking and playing, so let's stay focused. So I want y'all to think about, of course, everything that we do see around a FIFA match, which is player statistics, team rankings, performance trends, and of course predictions. But how do we actually get from a collection of raw numbers to something that can help us understand what happened, visualize what's happening, and or even predict what might happen next? So that's the journey we're going to hopefully go on today. And of course, there'll probably be extra sprinkles of the light. We're going to follow through on those specific life cycles. And I can't wait to think to have our wonderful guest talk to us a little bit more about ingestion, transformation, processing, and of course, visualization as well. So I think the best part about today is that you do not have to be a data engineer to follow along. So for those of you who are tuning in that have non-technical backgrounds or technical adjacent, welcome. You are welcome here. You are safe here. And I hope that this also brings some additional learnings to you as well. So again, we have the perfect person that is going to walk us through this incredible platform. And of course, the course today, we have an incredible woman. She is a business analyst and data engineer at Lowe and the founder and analytics lead for AfriMarket. What I especially appreciate about her story is that she did not begin her career in data engineering. She started in core operations at Amazon and discovered her love for data. She bet on herself, right? We talked about purpose and you know, knowing that you were made for purpose last week. Anyway, and of course made the pivot into tech. And so now, beyond doing the work professionally, she is passionate about making data feel accessible to other people who may not come from traditional technical backgrounds either. So today, you're not just learning how data pipelines work. You're learning from someone who understands what it looks like to start from somewhere completely different and build your way into this field. So without further ado, welcome to the stage. Hello, you're on mute. Here we go.
Thank you for having me, Chanel.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Definitely want to jump into some quick Q&A, or sorry, this or that questions. We'll get into that. But before we jump into that, if you could combine two superheroes into one, which two would you choose? What would be the new name, and what would be their new superpower?
Their new name, okay. Two superheroes. I'll probably go with Spider-Man and yeah, I'll probably say Spider-Man. I'm not really so much into like the superhero world, but I definitely watched the last Spider-Man movie, and I want to say definitely resonates a lot, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, Spider-Man, very human, someone that has emotions, especially if you've watched the last movie that came out, but at the same time has really these amazing abilities where he can save the world and help his community. So yeah.
I love that. I did have a chance to see it a couple of weeks ago. I went to see it in 4DX in Times Square, and it was so fire. I thought I was on a roller coaster. So shout out to you and Spider-Man. So are you ready to jump into some this or that question?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So, let's jump in. So, I guess we can start it off and warm, maybe light temperatures. Are you a coffee person or a tea person?
I am by heart a coffee person. I would say though, when I was in college, I used to drink a lot of tea. But
Hmm.
since I left college, since after graduating college, I really just started falling in love with coffee. And fun fact, I don't drink my coffee with cream or sugar. I drink it just plain dark coffee, and it just tastes delicious. So yeah,
Wow.
so I'm a
Shout out
coffee
to you.
person.
Okay, I'm definitely, I would say I have tastes for coffee at times, but I love a good tea. I love, man, what is my favorite tea? Chai tea would be my favorite. I love a fruity tea too, maybe like hibiscus as well. I love peppermint. Peppermint is cool as well. And
Do you have
yeah,
do you have
sit
like
down.
seasonal drinks? Seasonal
You,
drinks? Because I know tea come in different flavors, right?
I
It's not
love
like
that.
coffee.
See, you are that girl, okay? Because absolutely, I'm like I just love to have multiple drinks in general. So like, and soft drinks. So I like to have a ice drink, sometimes like a warm drink as well. And of course have water. I don't know, maybe that's like just a woman thing, but maybe you will always see me with multiple drinks. Um,
I
so if
mean,
I'm,
it's, they all
are you the same way
complement
too?
each other. Yeah, they
Oh,
all complement each other as long as they do so. Yeah.
sure. Exactly. So if I'm at Dunkin' Donuts, I'll definitely get like they have this new cherry limeade refresher, fire. So far, it's been like my new favorite drink. I love a good matcha, especially like a frozen matcha.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. And I've been really enjoying lychee flavor lately. So
Oh, okay.
whenever I go to like
Have
Korean
you
barbecue, mhm.
have you tried any pumpkin drinks? Because I know Halloween is also coming, or just overall, it's a season of pumpkin.
Girl,
I
yes,
highly recommend
baby.
Starbucks.
You so
They
you know
have
what the Lord
incredible
told me. Wait,
selections.
say it again. What was you saying about Starbucks?
Oh, I was gonna say I highly recommend like checking Starbucks selection. I know they have like different drinks just for pumpkin flavors like throughout the season. So yeah.
Honestly, 10 out of 10. I used to be a huge PSL girly, but the Lord been trying to tell me I got to be free from it. So, um, right now, I've been doing like the creamers or like that kind of flavor. Sometimes my
Yeah.
mom loves like the pumpkin cakes from Magnolia, so like that'll be my pumpkin. But yes, I'm totally a pumpkin girly. Speaking of, as we have transitioned into like food and just taste, are you a sweet kind of person or savory?
Savory.
Okay, okay, I
Yeah.
love that. Would you
Sour
prefer a bit?
Patches. Yeah. I was
Say
gonna
what?
say Sour Patch the candy. It's like my to go. Like anytime I'm craving sweet um candy, like that's like my to go just because it has that sourness to it. Yeah.
Wow, that's actually super cool.
What about you?
For you to say savory and then totally like do like a sweet sourish kind of treat is like very unique. But for me, I would say, oh, I think this is in seasons too. In the summertime, honestly, maybe I'm split between both. Because in the summertime, I love a good lobster roll, but I also love a good like sweet treat, like from like a gelato spot in New York.
Oh,
In the fall, I think I'm more so savory. So I don't know. I guess like you said, there's waves,
yeah.
ebbs and
Depending
flows.
on the season.
Exactly, depending on the season. Um, of course. So speaking of seasons, would you prefer a beach vacation or like a city adventure?
Um, I'll definitely go with the beach vacation, just because I live by the coast, and it's something that is very accessible. But I've got used to that type of environment over time, so definitely beach vibe.
I
If I
love
can,
that.
I try to stay away from the city, from the busy uh, chaos that happens there. Yeah.
Honestly, I love
Oh,
that
I
so
see. We
much.
have some people in the chat that are saying
Yes,
beach
we do.
vacation. A lot of
Someone
people
said,
relate.
oh yeah, a lot of people are saying beach as well. Very funny. Honestly, I prefer lakes versus like the ocean, like on the beach. So I would love to like go to like for instance like Connecticut and just kind of like
Mhm.
chill there as well. Maybe like have a lobster roll as well and look over the lake. Um,
Yeah.
but I agree. Sometimes
I
you
was
need a
gonna
vacation.
say, I was gonna say by the lake, do you have like a specific water like activity that you like to do, or more so just like the quietness and the peacefulness that you get out of it?
That's such a good question. If I'm with people, I love to bring a board game. So you will always see me with like a deck of Uno cards,
Yeah.
or like a box of Taboo. Like it's always going to be a party. But if I'm by myself, I normally will bring either like a devotional that I'm reading, and or like maybe my Bible just to kind of, or my journal to just kind of be quiet in not only my thoughts, but like just to have time to just focus on, yeah, just hearing from the Lord.
Yeah. Love that.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes, yes.
incredible.
Thank you, thank you. So, of course, in tradition or in the vein of today, of course, when regarding FIFA, are you a goals girly, or are you more excited when you see really cool assists happen?
I will say I'm a goals girly for sure. um, Especially this last FIFA game, I feel like I've really learned a lot about football because it's something that every time I watch, I get to like really learn about the techniques. Um, Obviously, yeah, there is like the technical part of it, like where you get to see like stats of the players and their history of, performance history and whatnot. But being able to just watch and see the human behavior is something that it's part of something that I enjoy really about football. But it's also just a fun game to watch with, group of friends, family. Uh, you also get to debate a lot about who's going to win and like why and why not. So definitely, you get to break some hearts there as well, especially if you support, let's say, Ronaldo, and then someone that supports Messi ends up finding out, how he ended up.
I love
Uh,
that banter. I love that banter, especially being here in New York City. Like, we just won the championship, which was a long time coming. So
Congrats on
I,
that, yeah.
you know what? Thank you, sis. It was a long time
It
coming.
it was after 30 years, or
I think it
how
was
long
about
is it?
25 to 30 years. Yeah, because girl, it's been a
That's
while. I think it's
huge.
even been longer than that. Maybe even 60, because it was the
I want to
70s.
say 30 or something. That's when I
Girl.
saw people were
Now, see, now I got to go to Claude. I got to go to Claude and make sure.
make sure we
Oh,
have the right info.
yes. But anyway, while I look that up, I definitely obviously want to say I'm super grateful for you being here. Of course, with your incredible data background, we have a lot of folks that are in our community that are looking to learn more about that as well. So let's lean in. Let's lean in. And of course, everyone, please, please, please drop your fire emojis in the chat if you're excited to dive into today. Claude just said it was 53 years between their second and third championship. So,
Wow.
girl, that is something.
That is an entire human lifetime.
That is a lifetime. Baby, it's a multiple generations in that, huh?
That is incredible. And I
It
think
is.
this even makes the win like worth celebrating, because that's a huge, yeah, that's history made. So congrats to every New Yorker if you guys are in the chat as well.
Yes, put hashtag New York in the chat if you're in New York. But yes, I'm super excited. Again, I will pass you on the baton. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chanel. Thank you for inviting me to go over what I've learned over my career, and to really serve this amazing, incredible community. So I'll go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. If you guys are joining us from different timelines, feel free to drop it as well. Like, would love to see where you representing from. Um, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. So let's go ahead without further ado and start. So the title for today's workshop is From Data to Decision. As Chanel mentioned earlier, data is something that is becoming very essential, especially in this day and age, where every single decision is made based off the data and the input that we have to consider, right? And this is something that applies to different fields or to different careers. So it's not something that just going to apply to for football. If you're a chef, you're probably going to need a data to make decisions. If you're a business person, if you're someone that works in tech and healthcare, logistics. I hope that this presentation and workshop would resonate with many of you, and you'll be able to reflect what you're going to learn here today to your day-to-day life and to your career as well. While we're going to be using FIFA as a case study to go over data pipeline and pretty much kind of what is data pipeline and why is it important for different business stakeholders and other tech teams that we're going to discuss in detail. For those who are new here, so my name is Kalkidan. I am originally from Ethiopia. My career background vast from working in operations and data engineering as well as business analyst. While my main experience is heavily focused in logistics, previously worked with Amazon and now working with Lowe. So I've been dealing with a lot of inventory. How do we translate data that we have in logistics to help executives to make business decisions? All right, so let's move on to the second slide. So what I will be covering today, there are going to be a couple of things. What is FIFA data and why did we use this instead of other data? So FIFA data has something very unique as well that I will discuss later on, like variables and other things. So that's one of the reasons why we're also going to be looking at FIFA data in detail. But we also have soccer lovers here in the chat, so I hope you guys are also going to be tapping in, sharing your knowledge. That could just be based off experience, no technical background or any of that information needed. So hope we'll get more engagements from the chat as well. And then we'll be covering data pipeline life cycles. So if you are not familiar with data pipeline, it's totally okay because we're going to go over every single step. And why is every single step important to making data useful? Because if a company or a business has data, but if they cannot use it to make valuable information, to take valuable information out of it, then what use it will make, right? So we're going to be able to streamline that process to where it's going to help stakeholders to make decisions. And then also I'm going to be touching some info on how that data can also be used to make predictive models. So it's not only something that's going to help executives and stakeholders, but this is something that data scientists, analysts, if you're an analyst in the chat as well, you might have worked with the last part, which is the visualization. So we're going to look at that in detail as well, what tools you can use from clouds, the language models, all of that stuff. And then if you want to pursue this career, like what are some things that you can start working on, from skill sets to networking, and things that you can work on to help you build the confidence in the skill set to pursue this career. So these are things that we're going to be talking about today. So a little bit about myself, as I mentioned earlier, I started in operations, moved into analytics and data engineering. So my work with Lowe heavily focused in building data pipeline for inventory management systems, as well as help our operation managers and people that are on the decision table make them correctly and with confidence based off the data that they're receiving from these data pipeline that I built. I come from a non-traditional background, so while I did my bachelor's in an industrial system engineering field, it was not super heavy technical. So if you are with no technical background and you're like, I don't know if I can really pursue a career in tech, this is your sign not to give up because you're not the first one that went through it. There are people that went through that and they were able to get through that journey and get to that end goal. So I hope that this is also going to inspire other people to keep going, to keep pursuing their goal, their career dreams as well. I do also share technical content on LinkedIn as well as Twitter and YouTube. So if you want to connect with me after this as well, I'll have a QR code so that you can follow up on some of the contents that I share, which is specifically catered to data engineering. All right, so let's just start with why FIFA data, right? Why we could have just used other data. First thing, yes, a lot of people love soccer. So this is going to be very relatable to many people. But FIFA data is uniquely made to analyze a single player. So if you're a coach or if you're someone that is overseeing FIFA as a business model, it's very important that you understand how each team member and how each individual performs in order to optimize their chances of winning, or their chances of, if there is an investor that is going to be investing heavily in a team. But in order to come up to that decision, you need a very specific, heavily focused data that is going to help you make that decision. So that's why we're going to proceed with the FIFA data. There are several things that we can look at in FIFA data. There is player stats, there is ranking. If you are also like a soccer fan, like, you know, there is like goal counts, like how many goals a specific player completes. There are different penalties as well. These are all factors that can really play a huge impact on how successful a player can be scored as. And this is something that would be super helpful, like when we look at the predictive model side, because your predictive model would look at all these factors, both human and non-human factors, or quantitative and qualitative factors, to make that decision. Now, second one as well, you're using that data for multiple purposes. You're using it to build visualization boards, you're using it to build predictive models, right? And to heavily invest in what is really important. If that means we need to work more on the defense system, then that is going to help. That data that we build is going to really help determine the future and the success of that team. Now, another factor as well is FIFA data is very accessible. It's accessible in GitHub, it's accessible in Kaggle. If you're not familiar with these two SaaS apps, so these are actual tools that developers use to retrieve data and share data as well, or share their projects. So if you want to start building projects, you can definitely reference to these two resources that I mentioned, and you can find plenty of data, but it's super accessible for FIFA. And you can find several repositories that have like a full documentation of the FIFA data. All right, so we spoke about why we are leveraging FIFA data for this workshop. Now let's look at why what is data pipeline lifecycle, and how is that going to look like? If you're a non-technical person and you're wondering, okay, like, why do I need to build a pipeline? Like, a pipeline is essentially this long tube that your data has to transform from point A to point B in order to serve a specific stakeholder. That stakeholder can be your data analyst, your risk management team, your stakeholders. There's so many people that are going to benefit out of that pipeline if it is built the right way. And if it's not built the right way, there are also going to be costs associated with it that can impact the business, but it can also impact overall the risk and privacy of that data. Because when we think of data, privacy, security is another thing that comes to mind. Now let's just start with ingestion. Ingestion is, as the name indicates, you're pretty much bringing data into your pipeline from an outside source. Now, I'm going to go back to the chat and ask, what are some of these outside sources that you can think of? So when we talk about ingestion, what are some things that, for FIFA, for example, good question, Tando Dubula, how do you ensure data integrity and security when building pipeline like this? That is really good question because new sites, okay, let me first address the security question. So when you're building your pipeline, you want to make sure that if you're pulling the data from APIs, that these APIs have a specific role and permission access, which we're actually going to be covering that in our, maybe the slide, yeah? So we're going to use a tool that's called IAM, and that is going to assign specific roles and permission. What I mean by that is, yes, you want to make sure that your pipeline is protected from an outside attack, but that's not the only thing. When you're building pipeline, you want to make sure that each container or each system within your pipeline has a specific restriction to what they can access and what they cannot. So when it comes to security, you want to make sure that you're not providing access to that data for everyone, even though that data is accessible, let's say within your organization. You want to make sure that it is accessible to specific teams, to specific individuals, but also within that system of pipeline, you cannot give access to every single system in that pipeline. So that's how you can actually make sure your pipeline is secure, that it's protected from outside threat, but also internally. What is the purpose of data validation and data pipeline cycle? You want to make sure that you're validating your data, because garbage in, garbage out, if you guys have heard of that terminology before, and that actually applies to data engineering roles more than, I would say, any other. Of course, all other roles are important, and like data is very essentially have to be clean in order to have a positive and a precise and accurate outcome. But with data engineering, if you're just stuffing your data or your pipeline not up-to-date data, or a data that is necessarily going to be addressing your stakeholder questions, then you're essentially just really building a pipeline that nobody's going to use, right? So data validation is very, very important. So if you're an analyst, you probably know that before you build your queries, you want to make sure that you connect with your stakeholders, you check with them what are some of the things that they're looking for when you're building dashboards, right? So these are all validations that you have to make prior to even start coding, because coding is probably the least important step when you're building your data pipeline. There is a lot of thought, there is a lot of infrastructural that you have to work on prior to even start coding, whether that's in SQL or Python. So we'll definitely get back to the rest of the questions at the end of the workshop, but to kind of just go back to ingestion, anybody knows like what are some of these sources that we can use to retrieve data and input that into our pipeline? So I know I've mentioned API earlier. Any other sources that we can think of? So in this case, let's say you have a FIFA match, right? And you are like a data engineer working at FIFA. You're not only going to be using APIs to retrieve data, because these are data that are old. So the data sitting in the API, maybe in FIFA's system or in FIFA's database, these are all old data. But in order to pull the new ones, you have to also retrieve them from like every single sources, right? Whether that is websites, database that's getting updated right the second when a goal gets scored or when a penalty gets added to that player. So you have to consider all of that, and that is the part of your source that you have to put in when you're planning your ingestion process. Now, for a lot of people, ingestion sounds like, oh, it's very simple. Let me just go ahead and add all of their sources and that's it. Game over. But when you're doing ingestion, there are two terms that come in mind as well. You have batch streaming and you have so you have batch and then you have live streaming, right? So your batch streaming, you're essentially streaming your process from a specific database, and you're basically saying, hey, like, I don't have to like necessarily pull that data every single second or every single microsecond. So you would usually use that process in the first step of ingesting your data, because you will need to retrieve that data from somewhere. Now, the streaming process on the other side, as I mentioned earlier in the FIFA example, you want to have your pipeline pull data the second Messi scores or the second someone else's scores, right? Or like a penalty happens. So these are all things that need to be taken care of through a streaming process. So this is something that you have to keep in mind in that first step of your data ingestion process when you're building your pipeline, right? So we break it down into 3 segments. We're done with our first segment, which is ingestion. We want to make sure that we keep in mind batch streaming as well as streaming process. So like if we know we're not going to need this data to be fresh, to be newly available, then you can do batch streaming. Another example that comes to mind is like on your Instagram feed or social media. The second you refresh your feed, you're getting new data every single second. And that's another way of Instagram pulling that data, processing it real quickly so that you can get it in a few microseconds. So that's how like it works across different industries and different processes as well. Now let's go to the second segment, which is transformation. I think there was someone in the chat that asked, why do we need to validate data? And this is where it comes in, right? If your data is not valid, if your data has a lot of null values, if your data is not structured properly, if your data has incorrect or inconsistent values, maybe like in row A, you have Lionel Messi, but then in row B, maybe Lionel Messi is all lowercase. So these are all things that we need to take care of in the transformation segment in order to make sure that our pipeline is not ingesting garbage data. Because if we get garbage data, the outcome would be not reliable. And as data engineers, we want to make sure that we're deploying, building data pipelines that are going to be reliable, that are going to have impactful business outcomes, because that's what's going to make you stand out as a data engineer. Now with transformation, this is probably, I would say, the easiest thing, but all you have to do is you have to make sure that your Python scripts are running, right? Are addressing all of these things. So like your null values, your duplicates, your data types, all of these things has to be addressed here. And if you're an analyst or you have a background in analytics and you're familiar with using Python and SQL, this step was probably gonna be super familiar to you. Now, moving on to the third segment, now that you have your data transformed, all you have to do is get that ready for it to be used by analytics team, right? But before we actually go there, something that I forgot to mention is in transformation, we have 3 types of medallion structure. Has anybody heard of what medallion structure is? If you have, can we show thumbs up in the chat? So medallion structure, amazing. Yep, exactly. Extraction, transformation, load, pipeline. Yes, that's correct. So that's another terminology for you, yeah. Awesome. So in transformation, if you've heard about medallion structure, not yet, okay. All right, so Medallion as in medallion. So you're essentially looking at your medallion colors, right? So you have bronze, you have silver, you have gold, right? It's an actual literal translation of if you're an athlete or if you have played some sport, you get all these three categories, right? So your silver, that's usually the person that's ranked third. That's the person that's ranked third, right? So what is something we can think of when we think of bronze? So your bronze is probably a data that just got injected, right? Or ingested. And that data is not clean, has not been processed yet. And pretty much everything in that data or in that container is garbage, right? So like you're gonna have null values, you're gonna have values that need to be worked on. And that's why we categorize that in three different buckets. You have your bronze, where you have all this data just coming in, right? And then you move on to silver. So silver would be the data that got cleaned, that has been labeled if all of that is needed. And then last but not least, your gold. So if you're a data analyst and you always go to this specific database to pull your data and visualize it, you're more likely using the gold database. And that is something that your data engineers have built. So that way, when you're looking at addressing specific stakeholder questions, you're just pulling it out of that gold database and you're translating that to visuals that can help address all these business questions. Unstructured data, that's correct. Good points in the chat. We have a lot of people in the chat that are also sharing valuable information. Awesome. Now, there is also something else to keep in mind. A snowflake reminds me of Snowflake. That's good. And when we talk about Snowflake, definitely something that comes to mind as well is your data warehouse or your database has different capacities, right? So you're going to be working with databases that are going to be taking unstructured data, and you're going to be working with databases that are going to take structured data. And obviously there are different language that we can also use, right? NoSQL or SQL based off the data that you're working with. And then you have data lake. So data lake is also this huge database container that you can actually put both structured and unstructured there to help data scientists. So data lake house would be something that most data scientists have to pull their data to train their AI models and machine learning models. So as a data engineer, you're also going to be working with different database models in order to categorize your data and make it ready for these different stakeholders, right? Now, this is about our life cycle. I know there is a ton of information when we talk about data, and that's the beauty about the role overall. It's not as structured in terms of like, hey, I come in today and this is what I need to work on. It just has a lot of moving parts that really makes you excited to always learn something out of the day-to-day operations of your work as well. Now, this slide right here gives some more granular detail of that breakdown, what tools we're going to be using, what does that segment look like in terms of the ETL. Thank you. Somebody mentioned that earlier in the chat, is that right? So you have your ETL pipeline as well. So like, what is that going to look like from the start to the end when we're building our pipeline? So let's just start with the right side, with the left side. So on the left side, you have your data source. Now for our specific case study, these are the two data sources that we're gonna need. But let's say if you're working on a different case study, you might need to pull live APIs, right, that are gonna ingest that data in microseconds, so that way you're not getting old data, which can impact your output as well. And after you get the data, you categorize them into three layers, right? You have your bronze, as we mentioned earlier. This is just a raw data that got pulled. No Python script, nothing has been processed or implemented into that layer yet. But once you move it to silver layer, now this is where the real work happens. This is where you have to clean, process, using different Python libraries like Pandash or different Python libraries like Pandash and PySpark as well. Now, once we clean and process that data, if we have an analyst or someone that needs to use it, we also have to collect that information, right? Which is mostly an analyst would have to do that, collect that information. And let's say if we need to aggregate it based off some average, minimum, maximum, all of these are going to be considered when building our golden layer. So that way it's ready for people to pull and build BI's, Looker, and other visualization tool with that information. Now, with building pipelines, you can use different clouds, services, and providers. For this example, we're using Google Cloud. And for Google Cloud, I think somebody earlier mentioned about security. And in order to address the security concern, let's say you have your data in bronze layer, but in order for bronze to transfer that data to silver layer, they both have to communicate, right? Your bronze has to say, hey, I have my data ready, I'm gonna send it to you. And your silver has to say, hey, I need that data because someone else is gonna need it to process the aggregation value of that data. And that communication happens through a service that cloud providers provide, which is called IAM. And each of that service is available for all the major cloud providers. So all you have to do is navigate the cloud service and give access to your bronze and silver layer. Obviously, that's going to look different. On surface level, you're looking at bronze and silver, but you're essentially going to name your bronze layer. For our example, we can name it as FIFA bronze layer 2026, right? Since we're doing this workshop in 2026. Now, when you are assigning roles and permissions in your IAM, you're essentially saying in roles and permission, I am gonna give FIFA 2026 bronze layer access to send that information to silver layer and vice versa. And then we're gonna do the same from silver to gold. Now, if you do not provide silver layer the permission to share that information with bronze or gold, then that information is not going to get shared. And that's how you keep your data safe and secure. Now, this may not apply for FIFA as much as it would if it's a private patient's information or like a financial data, or it could be like security and defense data for a country, right? So that's where security becomes very essential. Yes, IAM equals permission. Which is best? In what way, which is best? In terms of the layers or? Okay. For Rita Valencia, let me know what are we comparing it to, so that way I can address that question as well. What is the common misconception people have about how data prediction model works? Data prediction models are gonna need a specific scope, right? One thing I see a lot of people underestimate is you need to have a narrow scope of what you're looking at. Yes, they are predictive models and they can predict a lot of things, but the narrower your scope is, the more precise and accurate your model would be, right? Let's say for FIFA, if we're looking at, hey, like I need to identify top players that scored or that are likely to score 10 plus within the first 20 minutes. Or I think 20 minutes is an exaggeration, but let's say within the first few matches, right? like the more specific your question is, the more accurate, the more likely your model to be accurate. Obviously, that's not the only factor we're looking at. Your input data is also going to be very important. But I hope that answers the question. What is something that a lot of people, or a misconception that people have? What is the best point of anomaly detection? Is it a continuous process, or it happens best at ingestion? Anomaly detection can happen in that first segment of data input. However, it's something that you want to always have within every segment of your pipeline, which takes me to another process that we have called orchestration. So when you're building your pipeline, it doesn't mean that your system is strong and it's not going to fail. You always want to make sure that you are planning for the what if situation. And in fact, when you're building, you always want to build for failure, right? You want to build your systems to where they're failing. If they do I have a system that will support and back that, right? Now, that's where orchestration comes in. Yes, anomaly detection is something that we need to consider from the start until the end, because we're working with data. So I would say there is like a specific 1 point process or time segment that we can look into, but you want to start that from the beginning. So that would definitely make it the best point to start. But it doesn't mean that it's the only point that you should start looking at these things and considering them. Which data source is best to use? Now, it depends on what are we looking and what are we trying to get out of it, right? Now, if you're looking at live data, because live data is going to be very important, for example, weather, right? How many of us, before we head out, it could be just a weekend where we want to chill with family and friends, we look at the weather, or if you have a trip coming up, you want to look at the weather as well. Now, for that specific case study, you might want to use a live API that's going to pull and scrape that data from the data source, so that way your predictive model or your dashboard, your visual system is up to date and it's not providing the wrong information. So it's going to depend on case by case. Ways to know your predictions are as a data engineer. So as a data engineer, definitely the role and responsibility of the field has changed. I've seen fellow data engineers that even build predictive models, but as a data engineer, you may not necessarily be building predictive models. So for instance, for myself, I do have limited exposure to like building predictive models in my role, because we have a data science team which they handle that. But the best way is, again, your input equals to your output. So you want to always make sure that your input is something that is good quality, which takes me back to data validation. But from the beginning, before you start writing your code, your predictive models, you want to make sure that you're looking at your variables. What are you trying to achieve, right? So a lot of time, not taking the time to identify your bottlenecks, what are we trying to solve within this predictive model, really causes a lot of confusion, but it also impacts how well your predictive model performs. So I think these are some things that you want to keep in mind, kind of similar to how when you're developing a system, you want to design your system, right? You want to understand what would happen if my system has a lot of users, right? The same thing here. Like when you have 10,000 data points and when you have 10 million data points, it is different. And like you're gonna need to keep that in mind when you're building your data pipelines, but also your predictive models. IAM allows for the least privilege possible to be granted while ensure the data flow is maintained. That's a good way to summarize it. Thank you, Valentine Ville. what kind of predictions can be made for this data? That's another good question. Payal Mahta. So there are so many things that you can use this data for, right? So the first thing is, let's say if you are looking at, based off historical performance, who can lead the FIFA game. So like who's gonna be the last six or the last three teams that are going to be making it to the finals. But not just very generic, you can also narrow it down. Like who is the player that is going to be scoring the highest goal within the first maybe 40, 60 minutes? Or who is more likely to get a foul, right? Or who's more likely to defend any incoming opponent's goals. So these are all things that you can consider, like in order to make your team successful. But also from the outside, if you're an investor, let's say you're an investor that wanna, I don't know, purchase like one of the players, and you want to bet on them because you know they're performing well. Now, you can bet on them just by looking at their performance, watch every single game that they had since 1956, or you can hire a data engineer that is going to build that pipeline and model to help you make the right investments so that way your money is going to have a higher ROI, right? So there are definitely different case studies that we can use to solve different business problems in this in this case study. All right, so I'm actually going to get to the rest of the questions. Let's just go ahead and cover this. And then I think we have about 3 to 4 more slides. And then we'll open it for questions so that we get some of the questions answered. Now, we talked about golden layers, so aggregation. So this is something that if you are familiar with analytics, you've probably worked on aggregating to get like a more value added information, and you're creating different columns and different data base for that as well. And then the final part would be your visualization. So that's something that you can use. If you're familiar with Looker, then you can use that. AWS has quick sites as well. Different providers have different tools and systems for that. And the good part is, if you've never worked with cloud, every single provider offer about $300 to $400 free credit. That really encourages people to go ahead and open an account so that they can play around and build these projects without having to be at scale, right? To learn these skill sets. Now, as I mentioned earlier, so like we're looking at ingestion. So you're essentially importing all of these information and using Panda's Python library to load your data, and then from there you're basically going to process that data before you can transfer it to your silver layer. And that's where transformation comes in, and then you're using different Python functions and different Python methods to aggregate, to clean any duplicates, any anomalies that may impact your output. So you're going to work on the transformation stage in order to make that data ready prior to transforming it to the last stage, which is your gold layer. And then from the gold layer, that's where your analytics and any other team can just go and pull that data from the gold layer and visualize it using different visual tools. So again, this is something that can help to one of the participant question: what is the right investment to make? Is this team going to succeed making it the final threes? If not, then what are some strategies that we can work on ahead of time so that we can improve our chances of being the final threes and whatnot? So there's so many business questions that we can answer using this. So this section would be customizable to the likes of the stakeholders. I know like we also had questions. I know we also had questions about predictive models. So once your data is ready, now this is where you move it to different databases. So earlier we mentioned data lakehouse, you have data warehouse. So if you're not super familiar with these terminologies, I know they can sound very scary, but I promise it is just a container where the data has to live in. Now, they are databases, but the way that they're structured is different than, let's say, like your columns and tables, right? There are ways where we can also store our data in Parku. So like that is a different structure where you're structuring your data instead of columns and rows. You're basically structuring your data like in a continuous list of items. It's a lot more cost effective. So there are definitely a lot of things to consider here. But to kind of just go back to building the real model, building real world predictive models, in order to do that, your data scientists are probably going to require both structured and unstructured data. And that is something that we can find and we can build in data lakehouse. So all the data that you have ingested from all these outside sources, you can put them in your data lakehouse automatically so that your data scientists can go ahead and train AI models with it. So again, that's another part that would definitely touch on that predictive model section. But as a data engineer, you don't have to necessarily build the models, but it's definitely a good practice if you want to transition to data science roles as well. And as AI becomes very common in the workplace, like we're seeing that the gap between the two is merging and it's getting smaller. So like you would find data scientists that is actually building like an entire data pipeline, and vice versa for a data engineer that's building an predictive models as well. All right, so key takeaways from our workshop today. So we looked at end-to-end pipelines. So we looked at it from different 3 segments. So we have our ingestion, and then we have our transformation, and then our visualization. There is another term for it, which is ETL or ELT, depending on what process your company uses or like your team uses. So essentially what you're doing is in one of them, you're transforming the data, you're cleaning the data before you load it into your 3 layers, while on the ELT, you're loading your data into the database, and then you're transforming it later on. So we looked at that. We also looked at how we can use the data that is structured or unstructured data to help translate that to data scientists where they can use it to build predictive models. And then as well as we looked at some of the very common tools available in the industry. You have GitHub and Kaggle. So don't get intimidated by these tools if you're not familiar with it. But if you are, I would say definitely look into being comfortable using different cloud services. So if we have AWS people that are more into the AWS, Google Cloud has also several tools that would help build data pipeline in the cloud without you having to monitor any of that locally. So yeah, so these are some things, plenty of resources as well in GitHub. GitHub has so many repositories that you can just go and look at it to have a better understanding of how these pipelines work, and maybe try to like use it and you know, break a few codes and see why it broke, and is there a way around it, or maybe like is there a fix around it. So I think these are definitely resources that I encourage everyone to look at. As someone who comes from a non-technical background, these are some things that I had to adapt early on in order to build my confidence in the industry. So we'll pass it on to Q&A. So I'll open the floor to um, anyone that has questions based off what we discussed. I'm also available on LinkedIn for anyone that wants to connect on LinkedIn and follow on the contents that I share as well. But we'll go to Q&As and we'll also address some of the questions just based off where we stopped.
Absolutely. So we have a plethora of questions, so I'm excited to dive in. I do want to first preface time. I know that we're past time, so how much additional time do you have for Q&A to respect your time, Caldia?
I will say like 10 more minutes.
That sounds great.
We'll do it,
Okay,
yeah.
that sounds great. So I guess to start from, I guess, the later half and then work our way back, we had a question come in. So a little bit more clarity on the ETL versus ELT. Can you provide a little more guidance on that?
Yep, yeah. That's another good question. So the the difference between ETL and ELT lays um in that section like transformation. So like you're gonna have a, a process where you need to transform your data first before you load it, right? And the reason is because sometimes it comes down to cost. Um, so you may have a team of people that are allocated a budget, and they're told, hey, like we're gonna need to transform the data because we cannot accommodate all the other data that we're not going to use, right? That's where like your transformation becomes important prior to loading the data. Now, ELT becomes important if latency is a key factor, right? So I will divide that into two, so cost and latency. So if your team or your manager says, hey, like we're gonna need to make sure this data is present, like the second it goes through the pipeline, then ELT would probably be the best way to go because your latency in ELT is very low. What that means is your data is going to land in your pipeline. It's gonna go to whoever needs to work on that data. Um, in microseconds, while in ETL, you're looking at transforming that data prior to it loading into the website or into databases, data warehouse that your team needs to work on. So again, they're both are meant to accomplish the goal of ingesting the data, transforming and loading it, but the differentiation comes down to cost or latency. So always keep that in mind when you're assigned a project or if your manager is saying, "Hey, we need to build a system." I
I
hope that
love that.
answers your question.
I thought that was a great answer. Let us know if you need any more clarity in the chat. There is another question in regards from Jay Denise. Can this pipeline architecture be used for other service, maybe with other services and cloud providers?
Yes, yeah, it does. Um, and the good part is all the cloud providers have the same services, except that the names are different. So for Google Clouds, you have Cloud IAM, which is assigned to filter out the roles and permissions, right, in terms of security. And then in AWS, you have S3 IAM, right? So that is essentially AWS IAM. My bad. So most of this comes down to just the name. If you're going to Azure, you're probably going to find the same tools and services as well. It's just the name different. Obviously, like a lot of people would go with AWS just because it's commonly used. But I've used Google Clouds in a lot of my day-to-day job as well. So I would say there isn't really much of a difference when it comes down to services that each provider provides. It's just like a branding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. This is another question, but I think it may be aligned with what you just answered. So let me know. Can an external tool, third party app, be used in this architecture on Google Cloud? to enhance specifically data quality and analysis? If yes, which tools would you think are most compatible?
To enhance data quality and analysis, I would say a lot of the cloud providers have these third-party tools integrated. So again, I'm not sure like if let's say if Google Cloud has XLooker, why would I want to use something else like a third party that would help with an analysis? But for sure, like when you think of Snowflake and several of these third party, right, services that are integrated to these cloud providers. And in fact, actually, kind of just going back to which cloud provider has in terms of infrastructure or architecture, I would say I noticed a lot that AWS has like varieties of third party that you can integrate with without a lot of like difficulties navigating that. But yeah, definitely you can. Yeah, if that is something that you need in order to process your data. Yeah.
Awesome. I have another question. What is the best point of anomaly detection? Is it a continuous process or does it happen best at ingestion?
Yeah, I think I did respond to this question earlier, but
Okay.
yes, we want to keep that in mind from the beginning of the process, at the beginning of the process. But it's something that we also need to keep in mind throughout the whole process. So yes, like before we ingest our data, we want to make sure that we have guardrails and systems in place to detect anomalies, but it's something that we also need to set and build across our pipeline, which I also highlighted orchestration tools. So if you may want to look Apache Kafka. So these are all orchestration tools that we can use as well to help streamline the process. But also, if let's say pipeline A breaks because there was anomaly detected, then there needs to be a backup for that in order to make sure that data flow is continuous.
I love that. And I just put the name of the tool that she just aforementioned, Apache Kafka, is in the chat. Okay, we have, I guess I'll highlight maybe two more questions and then we'll close out. So from Randu, he mentioned for ML models like player validation or valuation, should feature engineering happen during pipeline transformation or within a dedicated feature store?
For ML models, so I would say for your ML models, you're definitely using both structured and unstructured data. So when it comes to transformation, it really comes down to what are we, if we're just getting rid of null and duplications, you definitely want to transform your data first, right? That's the whole ETL process. So you want to transform in order to make sure that your model has a clean set of data, input data, so that it can give you a reliable output. So I will say definitely yes, focus on transforming. But if you're an ML engineer, your data engineers are probably doing that, and all you have to do is just build in your model on that pipeline that they're building.
Awesome. I guess we have time for maybe one more after this one. So David asks, what are the most common data quality? Oh, sorry, this is the wrong question. How do you ensure each stage of the pipeline remains loosely coupled but still traceable end to end?
State of the pit. Okay. That's actually an excellent question because I know the way I explained it sounded like each segment is separate, but they all live in the same Google Cloud uh, file or container, if I may say, right? So when you're building your pipeline, yes, they're all going to be separate in terms of like permission and what they have access and whatnot. But that's where IAM comes in, right? It's that bridge that connects your bronze to your silver to your gold, and then also when your ML engineers or data scientists are coming to collect that data from your gold or from like your data warehouse in Lake, they're gonna need that IAM permission, because remember, that is a permission that locks in all of that data so it stays in there, or it allows people to have access to it. So that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind, right? When you're building your pipeline, you want to know who are the people, department, or individuals that you need to provide that information to. So I hope that answers your question as well.
Yeah, and the last question before we wrap up comes from Aranya. How do we figure which type of streaming process is better for large open source data sets? How we look for pros and cons, and are there any automated tools that can make this process easier?
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question. Because as a data engineer, you're gonna deal with a lot of um, data or sources that are going to require you to stream live data and inject that into your data warehouse. Now, there are pros and cons to it, definitely. Anytime you're streaming your data, I'll start with the pros. You're not necessarily collecting your old data, which is going to save on your cloud cost, right? Because let's say if the first time you collected the data using stream process, there was only 2 updates on your client list or on your FIFA player score change. Now, every time you go and make that stream process call, it's gonna see if there is an update that happened, and if not, it's not gonna add um, data to your cloud, which means your cloud your cloud cost would be as low as possible, which is you're running efficiently. Now, on the cones part, you can definitely, um, I would say you can definitely consider or expect delays if, let's say, you're relying on a SaaS application and something happened to that SaaS application. Now, your stream process is still going to run, but the data that's going to return is not going to be necessarily valid or available. So, always make sure that when you're building these stream processes, which you're going to be using like Python codes as well as libraries and frameworks, um, that it cross-reference it, and like you always have um, like orchestration tool, as I mentioned, like you always have a backup that is going to run it. And if there is like a bug or an error within that system, then it's gonna let you know and notify you through like a process in a system. So that way you're not a data engineer that doesn't know what's happening in their data pipeline, but you have an update, and before things hit south, you're going to let your boss or your stakeholders know, hey, we've identified this and we're working on it. And that's really what's going to make you um, a good data engineer.
Well, I think that was amazing. Thank you so much. We see so much love in the chat with everyone saying thank you and how informative this session was. Honestly, I learned a lot myself.
I'm
Um,
glad. I'm glad.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Before we close out, yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would love to see people in the chat. If you can build a simple, pipeline, I would encourage you to tag Mentor Me Collective and myself. Would love to see the work that you put together. It doesn't have to be complicated. Honestly, you can even go to your local restaurant if you have a favorite and see if you can help them build, like a dashboard. But you're gonna collect data from maybe different systems that they're using. So try to take that knowledge and apply it in something that you're passionate about. And if you build something, make sure to tag us. We'd love to see it.
I love that. And I know that we didn't have a chance to get to everyone's questions, so we do want to continue the party in the chat. I did drop a link in the chat, and it's our LinkedIn thread. We also obviously broadcast here on YouTube, but we also broadcast on LinkedIn. So that is where I want us to make sure that we continue. You can drop all of your questions there as well. And then our wonderful speaker today can go ahead and just ensure that she's able to answer your questions. Like she also mentioned, as you are building, please build out loud and build differently. Make sure that you also post on LinkedIn, tag us as well. And of course, we will always repost and comment for engagement too. So if you have anything that you definitely want to make sure that everyone here leaves with, what is that one thing?
I would say follow your heart. If you think it's not possible, maybe because of a few challenges, it's meant to be that way. Just keep putting in the work. Always reach out for support. And if you are part of the Mentor Me Collective, this is such a beautiful community of people supporting each other. Utilize that network. Make sure that you're using all these resources, awesome and amazing resources that are available. And with putting in the work, you can get where you want to be, whether that's being a data engineer, whether that's progressing in your career. You can always get there with the work that you put in. So I hope this encourages someone. Never in a million years I thought that I was going to transition from a non-technical background to one. But believing in yourself can really take you places. And with God's grace, it really gets you places. So I hope this encourages someone, my story encourages someone to bet on themselves, to work on themselves, and keep pushing. And thank you, by the way, Chanel, for inviting me. This was really awesome. And I look forward to interacting with the community and working on more future projects as well.
Absolutely. That was so beautiful. And we're so honored to have had you. Thanks so much for the energy, the dedication, and the intentionality in building out this workshop. Please make sure that you go ahead and connect right here with this QR code. And again, until next time, everyone, we will see you next week, Wednesday, for another Workshop Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. This is my year.
This is my year.
I'm gonna be great.
I'm gonna be great.
You cannot stop me.
You cannot stop me.
No one can stop me.
No one can stop me.
This is my year.
This is my year.
I'm gonna be great.
I'm gonna be great.
You cannot stop me.
You cannot stop me.
No one can stop me.
No one can stop me.
Are you ready? I'm ready. 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 Visualize it. Visualize it. Manifest it. Manifest it. I mind my business and I no complain. Every day I dey work and pray. As I dey chop, I dey wash my plate. I dey wash my plate. Don't be surprised when you see me elevating. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. This is my year.
This is my year.
I'm gonna be great.
I'm gonna be great.
You cannot stop me.
You cannot stop me.
No one can stop me.
No one can stop me.
This is my year.
This is my year.
I'm gonna be great.
I'm gonna be great.
You cannot stop me.
You cannot stop me.
No one can stop me.
No one can stop me.
Are you ready? I'm ready. 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 This year they go call you for phone and tell you many, many congratulations. If you believe it, repeat it. Amen, 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 amen. Don't be surprised when you see me elevating. Don't be surprised when you see me celebrating. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you see me. Celebrate, it's my year.
Bye, everyone.